Hey guys, it's Drew. So, on this channel, I mostly talk about music, art, and life, and well, that's kind of pretty much it actually. So, I feel like I tend to notice things. I'm an artist, and if there's any artists out there, I'm sure you can relate to that. You just notice things, man. Maybe even like non artists can notice this too because it's so, um, what's the word? Obvious, maybe? And that observation is that there is so much noise in this world. And I mean that, like, both literally and figuratively. Figuratively, as in the sense that just the online thing. Being online is kind of crazy. There's a lot going on at all times. I feel like you would call that, like, mental noise, maybe. And then, of course, there's the literal side where people are actually just loud. They use their voice in loud ways. There's nothing wrong with being loud or being a loud person. Literally, I have a very close friend of mine who is the loudest guy I've ever met, and he's hilarious, and he's just so full of love, and I very much appreciate him. But I mean, maybe it's that phenomenon of just like people associating loud with funny or loud with you know what you're talking about, which is I think somewhat valid at least because there's things that you can say loudly and it is funny because you're saying them loudly. But I feel like in the past, past 10 years or whatever, uh, the opposite of that, the quiet type of humor, that's kind of just been phased out. And I said like quiet humor, but you could also say something similar about like quiet confidence or quiet charisma or quiet intelligence, what have you. And I just don't see as much of that. I think that's because, well, like on a biological level, being loud is more attention grabbing. And with the advent, of course, of social media and just always being online, that attention grabbing loudness wins out. I think one of my favorite like actresses or comedians is Aubrey Plaza. Pretty much for this exact reason, is that she's not a loud person. She's pretty quiet, pretty deadpan, and it's just a different kind of, I was gonna say humor, but it's a different kind of charisma as well. I feel like if you've ever watched a Aubrey Plaza interview, you're kind of like on the edge of your seat, like what crazy thing is she gonna say next, and that holds charisma, I think. And then in contrast, when she is loud, it's kind of crazy and funny in its own way because of the contrast, right? Something you almost like don't expect. I feel like actually that doesn't go the other way around. If like a person is like loudly charismatic, when they start being quiet, it doesn't hold the same effect as what I just described. And look, I'm not saying one is better than the other. I just think that there needs to be both. Actually, you know what? I feel like all my takes are really like basic and about balance and all that. So actually on this one I'm going to change my mind. I think I'd prefer to be around someone with like a quieter charisma than a louder charisma. I'm going to say that right now. Quiet charisma is better. And of course that's like my opinion, right? But I'll tell you why. I think especially now I see it, but loud charisma can be faked pretty easily. I mean, literally all you have to do is be loud. And I mean, oftentimes I can see right through that. And again, like, I have friends that are very loud and I love them and I love being around them, but when someone is faking it, it's so obnoxious to be around, I feel. Versus the quiet side of that, that's a lot harder to fake. I mean, you can still fake it. I think, the idea of being mysterious, that's kind of like faking the quiet charisma that I'm talking about. And again, for me, I tend to see right through it. I think charisma is like one of those things that you either have or you don't have, but you can work on it, whether you initially start out with it or not. And I guess the aspect I'm like referring to is more like social skills, right? Like, I don't know if you're gonna believe this, like literally no one in my life believes this, but I am like a textbook introvert. If I had the choice of staying in or going out, 9 times out of 10 I would choose to stay in. I need to like force myself to interact with the people around me in my life. Otherwise, it's just not going to happen. Now, that being said, I liked talking. I like yapping. I like the sound of my own voice, clearly. And I have absolutely no problem connecting with people and meeting people. Well, maybe not like going out and meeting people, but once I'm in front of them, I can speak with them, I can relate to them, connect with them, like I said. In fact, I really enjoy doing that. So, kind of because of that, a lot of my friends and family will think I'm an extrovert just because I have good social skills. Now, the whole like introvert extrovert thing is like kind of obnoxious to some people. It can be to me at times, like, dude, shut up, I get it, you're an introvert. But I think it's kind of interesting to think about, even so. Because, I mean, look, I feel like introverts are often associated with like asocial behavior and being a little awkward, and sure, there are people like that. But I've also met a surprising amount of extroverts that have incredibly like poor social skills. I guess how I would define introversion versus extroversion is more of like behavioral patterns rather than like actually personality or characteristic patterns, if that makes sense. Like I said, I would stay inside 9 times out of 10. That's like a behavioral, oh my god, thing. I guess it has nothing to do with like the actual socializing part. I just like went off on a side quest, big tangent here, but if you are looking to like up your charismatic aura, I have 2 points of advice here. Number 1 is never claim aura, or whatever the kids say now. The moment you claim charisma or aura or whatever, you lose all of it pretty much. Even if someone says like to you, like, dude, you're a really charismatic person, like I think that's awesome. But don't be a jerk. You just say thank you and be like, all right. But like the moment you say, I have aura, you instantly lose like almost all of it, I think, in my opinion. If someone said that out loud in front of me, I'm like, okay, this kid has no aura whatsoever. It's kind of like authenticity in that way. Like if I were to come out and be like, hey guys, I'm authentic, that's like the least authentic thing you can say. And I mean, I guess the thing is you kind of just have to live it, right? Whatever it may be. And number 2, I think the most like overlooked aspect of charismatic people is that they are very, very good listeners. And I don't mean just like, you hear something that someone says and then you remember it later and then bring it up later. Like, not just that. That's maybe part of it, but not even like the half of it. What I mean more is like charismatic people just tend to have a lot more empathy. Even like the loud ones, right? In my opinion, like if a loud charismatic person is paired or like in a group with, quieter people or just less charismatic people, they will kind of know like when to shut up, when to, inquire about something or ask questions and continue discussion, whatever. And most importantly, they'll like help others kind of speak up if they're, a little quieter of a person, right? I feel like they'll notice, like loud and quiet. They'll notice when somebody says something, starts to say something, and then they get cut off because something else comes up or someone else just says something louder. And then they'll point to that that original person was, and just be like, wait, were you saying something? Or if like the person happens to be interrupting somebody else, they'll say something like, oh, I don't mean to interrupt. And then they'll say their piece and they'll be like, what were you going to say? Or something like that, right? But let me tell you, listening is extremely hard. How I kind of view it myself is that I kind of like take myself out of my brain and then view the room or whatever from like a bird's eye perspective. So I guess, there you go. There's my unsolicited advice. I think I was talking about like quiet charisma before. But let's see, I mentioned Aubrey Plaza. I'll mention like D'Angelo and Prince as well. Again, maybe it is just that aura that they give off, that vibe. And I mean, I have a hard time thinking of like more modern examples. Like, sure, Aubrey Plaza's still around, and rest in peace Prince, rest in peace D'Angelo. But I mean, I don't know. It's hard to like see people in the media or just in general that are quiet charisma people. So I don't really know what the point of this video was, other than complain maybe, or just talk about what I think about things. Maybe it's just like a call to action to keep being yourself if you fall into that category. Because I really don't know what to do about this problem, if it is a problem. Maybe I just haven't seen the right people or met the right people, but yeah, I don't know. Quiet charisma is dying a little bit, and it makes me sad, but like I said in the very beginning, when the world is so noisy, maybe we'll just come to appreciate it that much more. So, this has been a long video. I'm going to call it there. Peace, y'all.